Right. So are you ready to jump back into this whole Canadian political mess? It seems like things have gotten even more crazy since Trudeau's resignation and then that whole prorogation thing.
It really has been a whirlwind, and the sources you found really show just how frustrated people are. Trudeau announces that he's stepping down, and then bam, he prorogues Parliament, so there can't be a no-confidence vote. It's no wonder people are feeling kind of cynical about the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so just to refresh our memories, what exactly is prorogation and why is everyone so upset about it?
Well, prorogation is basically like hitting the pause button on Parliament. The Prime Minister can use it to stop any votes or debates from happening. It's been used strategically before, but in this case, it really seems like he's just trying to dodge that no-confidence vote. That's why critics are saying stuff like he's holding democracy hostage.
Holding democracy hostage. Wow, that's a pretty serious accusation. Didn't something similar happen in the UK during the whole Brexit thing?
Yeah, you're right. Remember a few years back when Boris Johnson tried to prorogue Parliament?
I vaguely remember that.
He wanted to force through his Brexit deal without any real debate. The UK Supreme Court ended up saying that was illegal.
Oh, okay.
So while Canada's legal system is different, obviously that case could be a pretty important precedent.
Right. So is that where Duff, Conacher, and Democracy Watch come in? They're planning on taking Trudeau to court over this whole prorogation thing, right?
Exactly. Conacher's argument is that Trudeau is undermining democracy and possibly abusing his power. He'll probably bring up that UK Supreme Court ruling as part of his case.
Interesting.
Saying that prorogation shouldn't be used to just avoid a no-confidence vote. It'll be really interesting to see how the Canadian courts handle this.
Yeah, definitely. So while we wait for the legal stuff to play out, it's clear that the public is already pretty riled up. Our sources mentioned that over half of Canadians want an election to be called if there's a no-confidence vote, and that the Liberals are probably going to lose a lot of seats if that happens.
Yeah, and that's where the source's argument starts to get really interesting. They're saying that delaying the no-confidence vote really only helps the Liberals. It doesn't help the people of Canada.
Right. Does seem awfully convenient for the Liberals that this is all happening now.
Exactly. And it kind of highlights a bigger issue that the source brings up, this idea of the Confidence Convention.
Confidence Convention.
Yeah, think of it as the foundation of how Canada's parliament works. It basically means that the government needs to have the support of the majority of parliament to stay in power.
Makes sense.
And if they lose that confidence, they're supposed to either resign or face a vote.
Okay.
But the problem is there aren't any hard and fast rules about exactly when that vote has to happen.
I see.
And that creates this gray area that Trudeau seems to be taking advantage of.
So basically, this situation is raising some serious questions about whether Canada's political system has enough checks and balances, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not just about what Trudeau's doing, is it? Our sources also talk about the NDP's role in this, specifically Jagmeet Singh and his alliance with the Liberals.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of frustration about that.
Yeah, for sure. The NDP's support has been keeping the Liberals in power.
Right.
But a lot of Canadians are wondering if this alliance has actually done anything good for them. Has it actually resulted in any real policy changes that match what the NDP stands for? Or has it just kept a government in place that people want to see go?
That's a great point. It kind of puts the NDP in a tough spot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, their supporters might be starting to wonder if the party is really representing them or just playing political games. What does the source have to say about that?
The source says that the NDP have basically become useless as an opposition party because of their alliance with the Liberals. They haven't really gotten any of their own policies passed, and they haven't held the Liberals accountable at all.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. It sounds like some Canadians feel like the NDP has let them down by supporting a government that they maybe don't even agree with.
Exactly. And that feeds into this bigger feeling of disillusionment with politics that the source talks about.
Yeah.
You have a prime minister who pretends to resign, but then uses a sneaky tactic to hold on to power. And you have an opposition party that's basically been silenced. It's no surprise that people are cynical and feel like their voices aren't being heard.
So what can Canadians do? How can they make sure their democracy is actually working for them?
Well, the source has a couple of ideas. First, they say it's really important to stay informed and engaged.
Right.
It's easy to just focus on the drama and the headlines.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's really important to dig a little deeper, understand all the details of the issues, and form your own opinions.
Don't just accept things at face value.
Right.
Do your own research, read different perspectives, and think critically about everything you're reading and hearing.
Exactly. And once you're informed, find ways to make your voice heard. Contact your MP, go to town hall meetings, join advocacy groups, or even run for office yourself.
You know, reading this source made me think about this time I went to a town hall meeting in my neighborhood. It was about this development project that I was totally against.
Mm.
I felt like my voice wouldn't really matter.
Mm.
But then I saw all these other people there. They were so passionate and ready to fight for what they believed in. It really inspired me to speak up too. And guess what?
What happened?
They ended up canceling the whole project.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a perfect example of how citizen engagement can really make a difference.
Yeah.
And it brings up another important point from the source, the power of collective action. When people come together and demand change, politicians have to listen.
It's about understanding that we're not just passive bystanders in this whole democracy thing. We have the right and the responsibility to participate, hold our leaders accountable, and create the kind of future we want for our country.
Absolutely. And the source says that's especially important during times of political turmoil, like what Canada is going through right now.
Okay, so we've talked about the frustration, the cynicism, and the need for citizens to step up. But looking at the bigger picture, what are the long-term consequences of all this for Canadian democracy?
Well, one of the most worrying things is that these kinds of political maneuvers could become the norm. If a prime minister can just prorogue parliament whenever they want to avoid scrutiny, it sets a dangerous precedent.
Yeah, like what's to stop future leaders from doing the same thing? Where does it end?
Exactly. And that's why the source is calling for changes to how parliament works. They say Canada needs clearer rules to prevent this kind of abuse of power from happening again, no matter who's in charge.
So it's not just about fixing the current mess. It's about creating a stronger and more accountable democracy for the future.
Right. Right. It's about making sure that the Canadian people have a real say in their democracy, that their concerns are heard, and that their elected officials are truly representing them.
So what kind of changes are we talking about here? What specific reforms does the source propose?
Well, one idea is to actually write the confidence convention into law with clear rules about when a no-confidence vote has to be held.
Ah, okay.
That would get rid of the vagueness that lets prime ministers delay or avoid those votes just because it's politically convenient.
That makes a lot of sense. It would make the system more transparent and predictable.
Yeah.
Everyone would know exactly what the rules are.
Exactly. They also suggest looking at other ways to keep the government accountable, like giving more power to parliamentary committees or independent watchdogs.
So basically diversifying the checks and balances to make sure there are multiple ways to hold the government accountable.
Precisely.
It sounds like we need some pretty big changes to fix Canada's democracy. But what can regular Canadians do right now to make their voices heard in all this?
The source says that in the end, it's the voters who have the power.
Right.
They're the ones who choose their leaders and hold them accountable.
I get that. But honestly, it sometimes feels like our votes don't really matter, especially with all the political games that are being played.
I know what you mean. But the source is saying that just voting might not be enough anymore. Canadians need to be more active in the whole political process.
So it's about more than just showing up to vote every few years.
Yeah.
It's about staying informed, participating in discussions, and holding our elected officials accountable all the time.
Yeah.
Not just during elections.
Exactly. And that can look like a lot of different things. It could be writing to your MP, going to town hall meetings, joining advocacy groups, or even just talking to your friends and family about the issues that are important to you.
Basically, it's like democracy isn't just something you watch. It's something you do.
Right. You have to participate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we're in a pretty intense political situation right now. Trudeau's resignation, the prorogation controversy, legal challenges, and a public that wants more accountability.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it's also a good reminder that democracy is always changing. It needs us to pay attention and participate to keep it working.
And it's not enough to just complain or criticize. We have to actually do something to create the kind of future we want.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have the right and the responsibility to be a part of the democratic process. Our system of government needs that from us.
Well said. So to everyone listening out there, if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the political drama, don't give up. This is your democracy, and your voice matters.
Yeah, it's easy to feel powerless when you see all these complicated political moves. But remember, every vote, every conversation, every time you get involved, it all adds up.
So get out there, get informed, get involved, and let's work together to build the kind of Canada we want. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the crazy world of Canadian politics. We'll be back to talk about how this all unfolds. Until then.